Rachel sat across from her husband David in a quiet corner of an elegant restaurant. Soft jazz floated through the air, glasses clinked, and the low hum of conversations surrounded them. She had been looking forward to this evening all week, just the two of them, away from their busy lives, a chance to feel close again. She smoothed the napkin on her lap and smiled. "It's nice to finally have some time together," she said softly. Before David could answer, a tall, stunning young woman approached their table. Her hair shone under the warm lights, her red dress catching every eye as she walked. She leaned down and kissed David lightly on the cheek. "David," she said with a bright smile. "Sorry I'm late." Rachel blinked in confusion. David didn't look surprised at all. In fact, he smiled in a way Rachel hadn't seen in years. "Oh, Amanda," David said casually. "No problem at all." Then he turned to Rachel, still smiling, but it wasn't a warm smile. "You don't have to wait for us. Amanda and I have things to discuss." The words hit Rachel like cold water. "Wait for us?" she asked quietly, unsure if she had heard right. David leaned back in his chair, almost amused. "You don't have to sit through this. Business talk. You're not really involved in this kind of thing." Amanda looked awkward, glancing between them, but David didn't notice, or didn't care. He went on, his voice just loud enough for people at the nearby tables to hear. "Honestly, Rachel, you've never really earned your keep. You've had it easy. Housewife life suits you, doesn't it? Living off my generosity." Rachel felt heat rush to her face. Her heart pounded in her ears. She wanted to speak, to defend herself, to remind him of everything she had done for him, but the words wouldn't come. She saw a waiter approaching with their wine, and suddenly felt the room close in around her. Without a word, she pushed back her chair and stood up. Her hands trembled, but her voice stayed calm as she said only, "Enjoy your dinner." David didn't try to stop her. Amanda opened her mouth as if to say something, but Rachel was already walking out, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor. Heads turned as she passed, but she kept her gaze straight ahead, holding her breath until she stepped outside into the cool night air. In the back of a taxi, Rachel finally let her breath out in a shaky sigh. She pulled out her phone to distract herself, and there it was, a bank notification flashing on the screen. The restaurant had just charged her card for the entire bill. Rachel stared at the screen for a long moment. The humiliation burned, but beneath it, a strange calm began to settle over her. She didn't cry. She didn't call David. She simply leaned back against the seat, her lips pressing into a thin line. If David thought she was living off him, he was about to learn the truth. Grew up in a modest family, worked her way through college, built a career in finance. That was Rachel's story before life got complicated. She had always been strong and independent, the kind of woman who refused to wait around for someone else to solve her problems. When she finished college, she found a good job at a financial firm, proving to herself and everyone else that hard work really could change a person's life. She met David during those early years, when he was still dreaming of starting his own construction business, but struggling to find the money. He was charming, ambitious, and full of plans. Rachel believed in him when no one else did. She stayed up late helping him write proposals, guided him through meetings with the bank, and even co-signed his first big contract when he didn't have the credit to qualify on his own. For a while, it felt like they were a team. When his business finally took off, they celebrated together, proud of how far they had come. But as time passed, David began telling the story differently. He spoke of his hard work and his vision, forgetting to mention the woman who stood beside him through every setback. Rachel didn't complain. She told herself it didn't matter who got the credit, as long as the family was doing well. After their son Ethan was born, Rachel chose to leave her demanding office job and work from home as a financial consultant. This way, she could spend more time with Ethan while still contributing to the household. David never asked where the extra money came from during the months his business slowed down, but Rachel kept paying the bills, the mortgage, the taxes, even his company's payroll when he fell short. She never asked for thanks. It was her family too, and she was determined to keep it running smoothly. But things started changing. David began staying out late more often, dressing sharper, and carrying himself like a man who had something to prove. He became secretive with his phone and vague about where he was going. Rachel tried not to jump to conclusions, but late at night, lying awake in bed, she wondered if there was another woman. Even as doubts grew, She held on to hope. She told herself he was just stressed, that business was harder than he admitted. She remembered the man who once looked at her with gratitude and love, and she prayed that man was still there beneath the new arrogance. But the strain wore on her. Rachel was tired, not just from raising Ethan or balancing the household accounts, but from pretending not to notice the way David was drifting away. Some days she barely recognized him. Still, she stayed silent, believing that if she kept the family stable, if she kept supporting him, he would remember everything they had been through together. Now at 34, Rachel found herself emotionally drained. She was still the same woman who had fought for every dollar she earned, who had built her career from nothing. But at home, she felt invisible, as if all her quiet sacrifices meant nothing. Deep down, she kept waiting for David to look at her again with the same eyes he once had, to remember not just his success, but how they had built it side by side. The restaurant humiliation was not an isolated event. It was only the first time David had embarrassed Rachel in front of others. For years, his cutting remarks had been private, spoken behind closed doors where no one could hear. Now he didn't seem to care who was watching. A few days later, Rachel was going through the mail when she found an envelope from the bank. She opened it, expecting the usual statements, but her heart skipped when she read the words, "Your mortgage payment is overdue." Rachel frowned. That couldn't be right. She had always made sure the payments were covered, even transferring money from her own savings during slow months. Later that same day, she saw an email notification on her phone, an invoice for an expensive diamond bracelet. At first she thought it was a mistake, but when she checked the details, her chest tightened. The bracelet had been bought using her credit card. She hadn't given David permission to use it. Rachel waited until evening to confront him. He came home late, smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't his usual brand. She met him in the kitchen, holding both the letter and the invoice in her hand. "David," she said quietly, "why is our mortgage overdue? And why did you use my card to buy jewelry?" He didn't even look guilty. He tossed his keys on the counter and sighed like she was bothering him. "Don't start, Rachel. I've been busy." "Busy?" Her voice trembled. "Busy buying diamonds? With my money?" David shrugged. "I'll pay you back." "It's not about paying me back," Rachel snapped, her control finally cracking. "It's about respect. You're making big purchases without even telling me, and our mortgage." "Enough." David's tone turned cold. "I'm done pretending this marriage works." Rachel stared at him. "What did you just say?" "I said I'm done." He met her eyes, no hint of shame. "Amanda understands me. You don't. I'm tired of coming home to someone who drags me down. You used to be exciting. Now all you do is nag." For a moment, the room felt silent and far away, like Rachel was standing outside her own body watching. She wanted to scream, to throw the letter and the invoice in his face, but instead she set them down slowly on the counter. "I see," she whispered. David didn't notice the change in her voice. "Look, don't make this dramatic. I'll take care of things." But Rachel wasn't listening anymore. In that moment, the truth fell into place. This wasn't just about another woman. David wasn't only unfaithful, he was careless, reckless, even dangerous with money. He had been spending freely, draining accounts, taking credit for everything while using her hard-earned income to cover his messes. And all this time, she had been protecting him, keeping the family afloat, paying bills in silence so no one would know. No more. That night, while David showered, Rachel sat on the edge of the bed with her laptop. She began checking every account linked to their names. The numbers didn't lie. Withdrawals she hadn't made, luxury charges she didn't recognize, loans she didn't remember agreeing to. Her heart pounded as she scrolled through pages of transactions. If she confronted him now, he would deny it. He would twist it, just like he always did. Rachel knew she needed more than anger, she needed proof. She opened a new folder on her computer and began saving copies of every suspicious statement, every bank letter, every invoice, every email alert. She even took pictures of his unopened mail, planning to go through it later. When David came out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, she quickly closed the laptop. He didn't notice, he was too busy checking his phone, smiling faintly at a message he didn't bother to hide. Rachel forced herself to stay calm. "Long day?" she asked, her voice even. "Yeah," David said absently. "I'm heading out again." "Late meeting?" She just nodded. Inside, a different Rachel was waking up, a quiet, steady strength she hadn't felt in years. If David thought she would sit by and let him ruin everything, he was wrong. But she wouldn't shout, and she wouldn't beg. She would do what she had always done best. Stay smart, stay patient, and plan. Before she acted, she would know everything. Where the money was going, what debts he was hiding, and how deep his lies ran. Only then would she make her move. Rachel begins discreetly pulling financial records. Working late at night when David is asleep or out, she checks bank statements, credit card bills, and old tax returns, saving copies of everything. The more she digs, the worse it looks. There are hotel charges in cities David never mentioned visiting. There are expensive dinners for two, luxury trips booked under Amanda's name, and even gambling transactions she never knew about. She also finds several secret accounts with money moving in and out, but not enough to cover what he's been spending. Her heart sinks with every new discovery. For years she thought she was helping her husband during slow months, but now she sees the truth. David wasn't struggling with business. He was living far beyond their means, while letting her carry the burden. Rachel meets her best friend Nina at a quiet cafe to talk. Nina listens without interrupting, her face growing darker with each detail. "You need to protect yourself," Nina says firmly. "Don't confront him yet. Get your documents in order first. Talk to a lawyer before you do anything." Rachel hesitates. I keep thinking maybe he'll realize what he's doing. Maybe he'll stop." Nina shakes her head. "Men who humiliate their wives in public don't just stop. He's not only cheating, Rachel. He's destroying your finances. If you don't act soon, you and Ethan could lose everything." Rachel nods, her throat tight. She doesn't want to believe it, but deep down she knows Nina is right. Over the next few weeks, David grows even bolder. He starts bringing friends over for drinks and late-night gatherings, treating their home like a party house. Amanda shows up too, sitting on the couch like she belongs there. Rachel is expected to serve food and drinks, while Amanda laughs and chats with David's friends. One night, Rachel brings a tray of glasses into the living room. David smirks and says in front of everyone, "See? Rachel's good at something, at least she can still play hostess." Laughter follows. Rachel feels her face burn, but she forces a polite smile and walks back to the kitchen. The emotional abuse doesn't stop there. David starts criticizing her openly. He tells her she's lazy, that she doesn't understand his world, that she's holding him back. Worst of all, he does it in front of Ethan. One evening, Rachel is tucking Ethan into bed when he looks at her with worried eyes. "Mommy, why is Daddy always with Miss Amanda? Does he like her more than you?" Rachel feels her heart break. She pulls Ethan close and says softly, "Daddy just spends time with different people sometimes. But he loves you very much." She hides her tears until Ethan falls asleep. That night, Rachel makes her decision. Enough is enough. She finds a divorce lawyer recommended by Nina and schedules a meeting in secret. In the lawyer's office, Rachel explains everything: the money, the cheating, the humiliation. The lawyer listens carefully, then gives her clear advice. "Do not confront him yet," the lawyer says. "Freeze any joint accounts you can, move your personal savings to an account in your name only, and keep gathering proof. The more documentation you have, the stronger your case will be, especially for custody of your son." Rachel leaves the office feeling scared but stronger than she has in months. She opens a new bank account that David can't touch. She quietly moves her consulting income there, making sure Ethan's future is safe. She also starts making copies of every piece of evidence she finds: receipts, bank statements, even photos of David's parties at home when Amanda is there. Meanwhile, David becomes more careless. He throws barbecues in the backyard and jokes loudly with friends about how Amanda understands him. He calls Rachel just a housewife, and tells people she's lucky to live off his success. Every word cuts deep, but Rachel stays silent, her face calm. Inside, she's building her plan step by step. At night, after Ethan is asleep, Rachel sits at the kitchen table with her laptop, organizing files. She feels a quiet determination growing in her chest. For years she thought staying silent would save her marriage. Now she knows silence is the only thing keeping David from seeing what she's doing. Rachel is no longer hoping David will change. She's preparing for the moment when she walks away, not empty-handed, not broken, but ready to take back her life and protect her son. David invites Amanda to a family barbecue at their home, smiling like nothing is wrong. It's time for everyone to get along, he says, as if bringing his mistress to their house is normal. Rachel keeps her face calm and says nothing. She has already planned exactly how this day will end. The backyard fills with relatives, neighbors, and David's friends. The smell of grilled food mixes with laughter and music. Amanda shows up wearing a bright summer dress and sunglasses, acting like she belongs there. David treats her like a guest of honor, staying close to her side. Rachel serves drinks and makes sure Ethan is playing safely with the other kids. Inside, her heart beats steadily. She has been waiting for this moment, but she knows she must stay calm. As people eat, David raises his glass and says loudly, "Let's thank Amanda for helping me stay sane this year. She's the one who really knows how to take care of a man." The words cut deep, and several guests glance uncomfortably at Rachel. Some look away, pretending not to hear. Rachel feels heat in her chest, but her expression doesn't change. Without a word, she walks inside the house. In the living room, she picks up a large folder she has been preparing for weeks. Bank statements, invoices, proof of payments. Everything is neatly arranged. She takes a deep breath, steadying herself, then walks back outside. The laughter dies down as she approaches the long table. "Excuse me," Rachel says, her voice calm but firm. "I have something to say." Everyone turns to her. David frowns. "Rachel, not now. We're eating." She ignores him. "Every meal you've eaten, every bill you've paid, every car you've driven, I covered it. Not you." The guests go silent. David blinks in confusion. "What are you talking about?" Rachel opens the folder and begins placing papers on the table for everyone to see. "These are the payments I made for your business loans. These are the receipts for the mortgage you stopped paying. And these," she holds up several statements, "show the luxury trips and jewelry you charged to my account." Murmurs ripple through the group. David's mother looks shocked. His friends exchange uneasy glances. Amanda shifts in her chair, clearly uncomfortable. Rachel's voice stays steady. "You've told everyone I'm just a housewife living off your generosity. But the truth is, I've been the one keeping this family afloat. I paid for this house. In fact," she pulls out one last document and lays it down. "It was paid off last month. In my name only." David's face goes pale. "Rachel, stop this nonsense," he says, trying to laugh it off, but no one is laughing with him. Rachel looks around the table. "I stayed silent for years to protect my family. But I won't let lies and disrespect go on any longer." Amanda clears her throat, avoiding eye contact. "I think I should go," she mutters, standing up quickly. No one stops her. David opens his mouth to argue, but no words come out. His friends and relatives stare at him, waiting for an explanation that never comes. Rachel closes the folder and holds it against her side. "I'm done covering for you, David," she says softly, but her voice carries through the stunned silence. "From now on, I take care of myself and my son, not you." Then she walks back inside, leaving David speechless, his guests whispering behind him, and the perfect barbecue in ruins. Rachel files for divorce, gaining full custody of Ethan and keeping the house in her name. The court sees the clear proof of David's reckless spending and Rachel's steady support over the years. David tries to argue, but the evidence speaks louder than his words. Without Rachel's hidden financial help, David's business quickly starts to crumble. Bills pile up, and loans he thought she was still covering go unpaid. To keep the company alive, he is forced to sell parts of it. The proud man who once boasted about his success now struggles to stay afloat. Rachel doesn't watch with bitterness. She simply steps away and focuses on building her own life. She accepts a high-paying job at a major financial firm, returning to the career she once put aside for her family. The long hours are different now, not heavy with sacrifice but filled with purpose. She feels her confidence returning with every project she completes, every paycheck earned under her own name. Ethan begins therapy to help him understand and heal from the tension he lived through. The boy who once asked why Daddy is always with Miss Amanda, now spends peaceful evenings reading or playing games with his mother. Rachel makes their home warm and calm, a place where he can feel safe. Life is not instantly perfect, but it is honest. Rachel no longer hides bills under the table, or worries about covering someone else's mess. She no longer walks on eggshells, waiting for a man's temper or sarcasm to erupt. One evening, after putting Ethan to bed, Rachel sits quietly in the living room with a cup of tea. She thinks about everything. The years she spent staying silent. The nights she believed keeping the peace was the same as keeping love alive. Silence had protected her for a while, like a shield. It kept fights from breaking out, kept appearances neat for the world to see. But it also trapped her, letting David believe she would never fight back. Now she understands something powerful. Speaking up didn't destroy her life, it saved it. Telling the truth, showing the proof, standing her ground. These things didn't break her family. They protected the part of her family that truly mattered, herself and Ethan. Rachel breathes deeply and smiles, not out of revenge, but out of relief. She is free. Rachel sits in the now peaceful living room, sipping a warm cup of tea while Ethan builds a tower of blocks on the carpet. The house feels different now, quiet but in a good way. There's no shouting, no footsteps stomping through the hallway, no tension in the air. Just calm. Her phone buzzes on the table. She glances at the screen and sees a bank notification. It's her first bonus from her new job. The number makes her blink. It's generous, more than she expected. But Rachel doesn't smile because of the amount. She smiles because it's hers, earned in her own name. No one else can take credit for it. No one can spend it behind her back. She leans back on the sofa, watching Ethan laugh as his tower falls over. For the first time in years, Rachel feels light, like a weight has been lifted from her shoulders. She remembers the long nights she spent covering bills, hiding her sacrifices, praying David would one day notice. She remembers how her silence kept the family looking perfect while her heart slowly cracked. But now the silence is different. It's not the silence of fear or being ignored. It's the silence of freedom. The silence of peace. Rachel takes another sip of tea, letting the warmth settle in her chest. She doesn't need anyone to praise her, or thank her, or tell her she's strong. She knows it now. She proved it to herself when she walked away, when she spoke the truth, when she chose to protect herself and her son instead of protecting someone else's lies. Ethan looks up from the floor, smiling wide. "Mommy, look, I made it taller this time." Rachel sets her tea down and claps softly. "That's amazing, sweetheart. You did it all by yourself." He beams at her words, proud and happy. Rachel's smile widens. She knows she's not just rebuilding her own life. She's giving Ethan an example of courage and self-respect. As the evening sun slips through the window, painting the room gold, Rachel picks up her phone again and glances at the notification one more time. A simple bonus, but to her it's a reminder. She can stand on her own 2 feet, and no one will ever tear her down again. She whispers to herself with a calm, steady voice, "The bills are mine now. And so is my life." Hi friends. Thanks for sticking around till the end. Don't forget to like, share and drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit that subscribe button for more stories. See you next time.